This video is designed to talk you through some of the aspects of world development that you need to know for your GCSE course. If we come up to the top here, we can see that development is the level of growth that a country has experienced. There are two extremes in terms of development. MEDCs are more economically developed countries, and the meaning of the term MEDC is a country like the UK which has a high level of growth. The opposite to that is an LEDC, a less economically developed country, and that's a country like Sierra Leone, which has a relatively low level of development. Rather than thinking of those as two distinct groups, it's more useful to think of them along a continuum. So we think of them along a line like this. At this point down here, we would have the very, very poorest LEDCs, and up here we would have the very richest MEDCs, and we've got a line where countries could potentially move up and down as they improve or have a lower level of development over time. If you think about the two examples that we talked about, the UK is definitely one of the most developed countries in the world, and Sierra Leone is definitely one of the least developed countries in the world. Another term that you need to be aware of is this idea of the development gap. The development gap is the difference in development between MEDCs and LEDCs. If we come back to our simple diagram, then the difference between Sierra Leone and the UK as represented in this diagram would be referred to as the development gap. If we come down to this world map, we can see that it is categorizing all of the countries in the world into a number of groups. If you look at the key, the top two groups, advanced economies and those in transition, would refer to MEDCs. If we come up to our diagram, then we could think of the advanced economies as being here, and those in the transition phase as being in here. So you can see the greens that we have countries such as America, Canada, most of Western Europe, and then some of the Eastern European countries, etc., who will also be in the transition group. Australia and New Zealand also fits into the advanced economies. A line is quite often drawn across this map which looks something like this, and refers to the rich north, and that's normally discussed. As we come down and have a look, less developed and least developed, these will be certainly our LEDCs. So the less developed will be in here, and then the bottom group will be our least developed countries. And you can see that most of these occur in the southern part of the world, or the southern hemisphere at least. Most of the least developed are in sub-Saharan Africa. You can see examples of these countries here. One other thing that we need to be aware of is indicators of development. That's to say, things that we use to show levels of development in countries. Some of the common ones are included here as examples. First one, gross national income. This is the total value of everything a country produces per head of the population, basically divided amongst the population. This allows us to make a fair comparison between countries of different populations. If we come back to our example sort of diagram, I'll maybe actually draw another one down here. So we've got our poorest LEDC, and then this transition line right up to the richest MEDC. If we think about gross national income as an indicator, well then low levels of gross national income will be experienced by the LEDCs, and then high levels of gross national income by the richest MEDCs, and we've got that continuum that exists along that line. Next term, life expectancy. This is how long someone is expected to live on average in a country, and this is an indicator of really the quality of healthcare that's available in a country. If we come down here to our example again, we could say low life expectancy. That's as a result of the poor levels of healthcare available in the poorest countries. So this could be as low as between 40 and 50 years. If we come across to the richest MEDCs, they have a very high or long life expectancy. So some of the richest MEDCs are up around the 80 mark or even higher, and we again see that continuum along there. A couple of the other indicators, literacy rate. Again, this is an indication of the amount of money that's spent in education, but basically means the percentage of people who can read and write. Again, if we come down to our example, literacy rate will be low in the poorest LEDCs, very high in the MEDCs, and again changes as we move along our continuum. Those indicators are all individual indicators. Something else that you need to be aware of is this term, a composite indicator. So if I come down here and use gross national income as an example, if we think about some of the Arab states which produce oil, they would have a very high gross national income. They would probably sit round about here. But as these countries aren't that well developed in terms of their healthcare and the amount of money that the government spend on healthcare, their life expectancies can be quite low. So their high gross national income figure is not really a fair representation of the full level of development within a country. So for those indicators, using individual indicators, it can hide variation. Okay. So if we think about composite indicators, using more than one indicator, it gives us a truer picture of what we actually see within a country. The most commonly used composite indicator is this Human Development Index. This is a composite measure that uses life expectancy, adult literacy, and gross domestic product to measure development. Countries are scored between 0 and 1, with 1 being the most developed. So if we come across here to our continuum again, with regards to the Human Development Index, a country with a score of 0 would sit here. Countries with a score of 0.5 would be in the middle, and obviously countries with a score of 1 would sit here. Again, it uses life expectancy, adult literacy, and gross domestic product to give us a true and accurate picture of the level of development within a country, and takes out those variations that we sometimes see.